Studios, back to production. What you say? I'm Phantom Mega Stereo. Uwa, diho, subiza. Uwa, diho, subutunzi. Uwa, di.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Get Real with 7 podcast. Today's episode is called Black Queen. As you can tell, I have amazing, beautiful black women with me today. The point of this podcast is to kind of give you guys more insight of what it's like to be a black woman in America. Not even just that, but just a black woman in general, the struggles that they have to go through, everything they have to overcome. For me, this was more of a personal reason why I did it, because also just in a little journey that I've been going through and just understanding how I've mistreated black women. And so in a sense of just trying to get to understand them better and know their aspect, I wanted to get them on here so they can kind of talk about it themselves, because what better way to get to know someone unless they talk to you about it firsthand. So before we begin, I'd love for you guys to kind of tell the people who you guys are, just a little bit about yourselves, a brief summary of who you guys are. Well, any of you guys can go first.
My name is Radiant. I am a student studying law and public policy, and yeah.
I'm Zay, his older sister, and excuse me?
Emphasize on older.
And I'm an X-ray tech, as well as on my free time I sometimes model.
Don't say sometimes, girl. You're going crazy. Stop playing with them.
I was like, don't. I'm Deja. I am an artist, just creative. I do a lot, sometimes too much.
You have beautiful work, by the way. I really like the ones you posted lately. Okay, so let's just get straight into it. Can you guys please break down what it is like to just be a black woman in general? I know I said black woman in America, but just being a black woman, like what is that like for you guys?
You looking at me?
Okay.
So everyone's good.
So
Thank you.
for me, it's honestly a privilege in itself. Like, I love being a black woman. Not just being black, but being a black woman. I just feel like we carry ourselves with so much, style and elegance and grace. Like, it's just, I don't know what it is about. It's just that it factor, and but it didn't always feel that way, but I'm glad that I'm in a place where I do feel like that myself. So
yeah, I mean, I feel the same way now. I feel like I take more pride in being a black woman, and I think it's actually exhausting at times, just because of our history and everything we've had to overcome, and continuously having to overcome it, or like learn how to love ourselves just so the world can love us, or just feel a little ounce of love. But I think it's a huge journey that every black woman has to take. They have to learn how to re-love themselves. It's like rewriting history for themselves. Does that make sense? It's like you hear all the negatives of why it's not great to be a black woman, or why it's not great to be in the skin that you're in. So you have to relearn how to switch your brain and like, black is beautiful. You are a black queen. You will accomplish this no matter the color of your skin. But I feel like it's just a continuous journey. But I mean, I love being a black woman. And I think that being black woman, like a woman that is black, is an incredible thing in itself. It doesn't always feel like that, but I feel like we've come to a place where it's empowering,
For me, growing up, all I saw were black women. Like, I was raised in my family. It's rare for there to be a black man that's born into it, so that was normalized. So my knowledge of history was taught to me by a black woman. My idea of beauty was those that I saw, which were black women. So like growing up, it wasn't a matter of question if I was good enough because of my color. It was more of like, once the external world started to impact me, then I started to question what that really meant, right? Like, if I turn on PBS Kids and everybody from Caillou to whatever you're watching is white, then what's happening, what's wrong with me. And that kind of like multiplied and took different forms as I grew up. And it was more of like, it took a sense of ownership for me to take ownership of my Blackness, take ownership of my identity, for me to learn what love felt like for myself and for those that look like me. Because it's almost like being a Black woman feels like, sometimes I wake up, or just being a woman, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, Eve, God said forgive, but I can't forgive you. Like, you know, like that beef is gonna go on for a long time. And then other days I'm like, damn, I gotta be Black today. like you know, if I see a cop, I'm like, today's the day to be Black. But then most of the time, it feels like an honor. Like, to be so smooth and so eloquent and so melanated just feels like an honor. Yeah.
So I feel like all of you guys in this aspect of life, you guys are happy with your Blackness, right? But I think you guys
all that chocolate got
but
it.
you guys all went through a stint where you were quite like, you're like, man, like I wish, well, okay, I'm gonna just start that. Well, for me at least, sometimes when I was younger growing, I was like, man, I wish I wasn't so dark, because the dark people, they didn't get as much love as that, either the light skin or the white people. And so can you kind of share with the audience kind of what that experience, before you got to this healthy aspect of where you love your skin, what was the experience like during that time where you didn't love your skin color or yourself in general?
It's there were many. There wasn't a time, I guess, up until I was probably a junior in high school, that I wished that I was not Black, or I would, wish that I took more of my mother's features. Well, my mother is Black, but she's very racially like ambiguous, and
like they consider it exotic.
Yeah. And her hair is like it's not a texture you usually see on Black people. So I would just like pray every night, like, God, please make me more like my mom. Like, please make me look more like her. I want to have her hair, because her hair would grow like down to her waist like nothing, and I would just be like, please, like I would literally pray every night that I would wake up looking completely different, so that I would be desired more. And it was, it definitely, my self-esteem was honestly like non-existent, especially in middle school. And I was born in Pennsylvania, so I lived some of my childhood there, but I mainly grew up here in Arizona. So in Pennsylvania, I grew up in like a predominantly like Black neighborhood, and I didn't realize that, I was not ugly, but it wasn't until we moved here that, I started to feel that way. And I started to realize, like, okay, well, because I'm different, nobody wants to be my friend, or, so-and-so doesn't want to hang out with me because they think my family is a certain, type of way. And even like down to the most innocent things, like having a crush on boys. Like, I was obviously boy crazy when I was in middle school, which is probably not the best time to be boy crazy, but it's just the way it was. But whenever I would have like a crush on somebody, they never liked me, and it was always for the reason that I was too Black, and which is crazy. And I don't mean to like, I don't mean to say that like whenever I was younger I had that like superiority complex because I had lighter skin, that I would be more desired. That didn't exist to me because, of what my peers were saying about me at the time. So for me, it didn't matter if I was light skinned or even a little bit darker. They thought of all of us the same. And I know it's not always like that in some cases. I fully acknowledge that darker skinned women do, get it harder than I probably ever had it. But it gives me shivers to think about, the thoughts that I thought about myself because of what somebody else said about me just for being Black. Yeah, and the constant like microaggressions, or teachers asking me like, "Oh, do you think you can put your hair in a low ponytail so you don't block anybody?" Like it was just the crazy. I just hated being black. I hated it. Oh God, I just the hurt in my heart that I had, and I'm still healing from it today. Like there's certain triggers that go off, and I'll just get super defensive, and yeah. Not me getting emotional.
For me, I am still healing, and it's still a process for me because I do have triggers. My trigger is always the hair thing, and I'm just like, it's funny because I was working the other day, and one of my coworkers, she changes her hair different colors all the time, and I'm like, man, I just wish I had the balls to just chop my hair, dye it however I want, and feel confident. She's like, girl, what are you talking about? You can definitely do that. And like hearing about Black women embracing that more and stuff like that. But it's like the 15 years of trauma of hearing if your hair was long and straight, and if you were lighter skin, I'd date you. Or it's just like all those reminders that I began to panic and like relive those moments when I hear things like that. But for me, it wasn't until college when I started being like a little more confident.
Yeah.
But I've never found confidence in my hair. I'm starting a little bit more just because I didn't have sisters growing up, and my mom never did my hair. So I had to learn how to do that myself. But like hearing that was traumatizing. I didn't really, and like you grow up hearing you're beautiful, like from your family members, the people who know you. But you're like, but you're my family. You have to tell me that.
Yeah.
I'm seeking approval from people I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how much meaning does that really have if it's not from people who really know and truly love you? Do you know what I mean? So I had, and I love all people, and I hate that I have to say that to justify me not hating anybody, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I grew up hearing, you're pretty for a Black girl. What does that mean? Are Black women not beautiful? Are Black people not beautiful? Or if your hair was longer and straight, I'd totally date you. Or, you just don't have curves like a real Black woman would have. I'm just like,
yeah, that's my favorite
okay.
one. That's my favorite one.
So growing up, it was always features. It was always features. It's features that defined me. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, there were days where I'm like, God, if people hate me so much, why'd you create me like this? Do you know what I mean? It's like, had me fighting with God and approval, and I'm just like, why would you create humans like us if we were meant to be hated so much? Why put in commandments, love thy neighbor like you love yourself, if I have not yet to receive any of that? Why are you making it so much harder for me to love myself when you meant for people to love each other as they are? Do you know what I mean? And it's just, and nowadays it's like people are embracing Black beauty and like Black features, and I'm like, why'd you have to traumatize me for 20, 15 years
And
in
now it's
order for it to
trendy.
be a trend now? Everybody wants to change themselves to have better features and bone structure like people of color. Everybody wants the curly, beautiful waves. Why didn't you tell me my curls were pretty when I was younger? It's just like everybody wants them now, But I'm just gonna leave that one there and let you take this one.
Whatchamacallit? I think my first exposure to not feeling beautiful for being Black actually happened within the African community. And that sounds really weird, but like, have you ever been to I don't care if it's a Nigerian store, a Burundian store, I don't care what it is, the amount of lighting creams that they have, it's like a whole
Yes!
shelf Like
Oh.
they literally got like a whole
Yeah.
shelf behind the counter
Dedicated.
with security.
Yeah.
Dedicated to lining cream.
With
And then they-
security.
And then with security,
I'm
it's
like,
not important.
what?
And then they have some in the back, and it's always the same. It's
Yeah.
always the same 3 women, whatever. That's another conversation. But
Yeah. I'm like, put those hair growth on lock. Why you got that hair? I'm just
the lining
No.
cream.
the lining
Don't
creams on lock. I'm like,
Leave them on lock.
no, but I'm just
Leave
like,
it
of
like
all
that.
things, you want to put this on lock, but not okay.
No,
Continue.
but like the lining cream. So it was just so. Everyone, it didn't matter to me. Like everyone that I saw that was from the continent. The idea, the internalization of self-hatred has manifested so deep to the point where like people are structurally trying to erase their blackness by chemically burning their body and taking in like minerals and chemicals that end up harming them and like in the future and leading to even more like to know that this is leading to your death and still feel like beauty is pain, so therefore let me sacrifice myself, and having an entire so just walking in there, right? And they all smell the same. They all, I feel like they all have like this orange tint to them or whatever. And like you just see them apply it on. It's like, look, you can reach beauty. You can be this girl. So seeing that, my mom was when growing up, she was like really light, and then so it was almost like so she was light for someone that is like she was not ambiguous, but she was lighter from someone of her region, and so then I would look at her and I would look at the woman that's on the bottle, and then it's almost like, well, maybe if I look like that, if I use that, I'll look more like my mom, right? But then that was like, I was like, no, anyone got time to be applying that religiously.
It's literally religiously.
Literally,
And like
it's
equally
everywhere.
everywhere. Like you
know
can't
what?
even miss your
Because
knuckles
you
or
know
your
what, somewhere
Otherwise,
dark, lighter,
the knuckles will be dark.
darker.
And
And I was like, do I
Yeah,
it's like a
no.
whole project.
It's
No,
like
I don't.
almost
Yeah.
done. I'm
my
tired
laziness
already.
saved me.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
Yeah.
and you also get sunburns. I already like get scars. Like, no, I don't want it. But like the fact that it was so tempting, and that just manifested into like going to high school, where it was almost like, okay, if you're watching this and you're in high school, everyone in high school was so flat. Like everyone was a negative A cup, and then like
Speak for yourself. I'm just kidding. It's true.
Okay,
That's
that's
true.
opposite
It's
for me
true.
because in my high school, it's almost like everyone was like
Okay, but,
thick,
like-
and I was
Oh, in
just
high school?
bony.
Oh yeah,
in middle
I
school. In
Okay, middle school.
They were all
Okay.
like right, and like middle school, some things that are popping. So then I was like, okay, so let me reduce my size figure in order to match theirs, right? Because I was blossoming a lot faster than they were, obviously. But then it was like, and that manifested as I grew up older, right? Like obtaining the size, like size 2 was like that was my perfection.
Yeah.
Right? Because it was almost like I want to go to Abercrombie and Fitch and just walk in and buy
Oh,
any
Abercrombie
jeans.
and
Fitch.
I just want to go in there and buy
Oh,
any
yeah.
pair
And then
so much
Levi's,
girl.
the pants.
Yes,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
will be in
Just
stock, and I won't
every
have to
time.
I won't have to do the walk of shame to the plus size. I can just stay out in the open
crazy.
instead of going to the back to the plus size, right? So like that manifested, and like as I got older, that became an eating disorder, and it was all about obtaining what I have come to, I don't know, idealize. And all of that was rooted in self-hatred, because it was almost like an attempt to erase myself, I would become more perfect. But then but that also created like a level of resentment, because when I realized that what I was doing was harming myself, like more than anyone in the world. It's like I cannot sacrifice myself in order to like flip off everyone else in the world. I was so mad at everyone in my life who would ever use lining cream. When I walk in there now and I look at the line, I'm like, you don't even get my
Burning
penny.
is the love. No, just
You don't
kidding.
even get my, like whatever I walked in there, I'm walking back
Yeah.
out, because then it's almost like, and it's just so. I almost feel like an instant kind of anger, because I'm like, you did that to me. You made me feel this way. But I know they're dealing with their own stuff, and like
Yeah.
they have their own version of them in their life, whatever. But they're my version of them. So it's almost like it took a while to come out of that process, and now I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, you can contour, but you can't reach.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
But these curls, it took 2 hours, but I got them, and they're my own.
Yeah.
But like even some days I don't want to wash my hair. I don't want.
It's a whole process.
Or
That's why
I was
It's-
talking
Girl.
here.
hey,
Yeah.
we're in a week.
It's like being in that class you really don't like that just lasts longer than it should.
But
Yeah.
you
But you
which
need
is
it.
mandatory for graduation.
Because you won't graduate.
It's
You won't
U.S.
graduate.
history. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
It's called put some
I'm
moisturizer
traumatized by
in it.
U.S.
and-
history.
Yeah.
But, it was like I was talking to Seth the other day about 70% of Black women don't work out because of their hair, and what that means.
My life revolves around it.
Yeah, like
That's why I had to chop it off. That's why I
exactly.
did.
So like, and I was at a yoga studio, and this Black woman, she's like in her, okay, I'm gonna estimate 50s because she had gray hairs. And for a Black woman to have gray hairs, we're gonna say
Really?
50s.
Yeah.
Like we gonna say 50s. And she had gray hair, and she comes up to me, she's like, "How are you doing it?" 'Cause she had braids in. She was like, "So I was telling my husband today this morning, and like once I take out my braids, I won't be able to come to Pilates or hot yoga because like then my hair will be out."
That's true.
And I was, because it's humid,
It's a-
so it's like
yeah.
the poop comes out.
Yeah.
You cannot contain that. And then and I was just like, a 50-year-old is
Is
asking
asking you
my humble self how
to you maintain your.
her own hair, like
How
how
wash it every day.
exactly. And I'm just like, that's
Or you
wow.
can, but all the other Black people will look at you like you wash
No.
your hair every
Oh
day.
no,
you
like I
can't.
really cannot,
No,
or else
'cause
it'll
then you're
break
stripping
off.
your hair.
Right, but if she
It will
wanted
break
to,
off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
you know,
in order to-
if she wants to
yeah.
retain her hair.
because I used to be a swimmer and people look at me like,
Yeah, my
You-
sister's a swimmer.
I
It's
know.
tough for her.
yeah, like, you know,
And then all that.
do you see that?
No,
Yeah.
you're great.
No, but yeah.
I would have a whole hair.
I had that cap, but that cap straps. She's taking it off and
A
just
whole-
pulling my
a
hair,
whole
shaking
trash
it
bag.
around.
Then a whole trash bag layered
Yeah.
on there and just.
Yeah.
We're not
No.
I
playing.
do not miss
But
that.
like that is so crazy. Like I feel really lucky to have unpacked the trauma that I'm still unpacking, to unpack the
Mm-hmm.
rooted trauma at this age, so that I can be able to be physically
Yeah.
present for her. And like now I see her and I'm like I'm waiting for her to take out the braids and she can come, because that's like
When it's really gonna hit.
that's when I'm gonna be like, you did it. It's almost like a sense of pride.
Let's hit on the whole like, well, so I want to hit on this topic from the hair, from the dancing, from the culture in itself. I think a lot of times the Black community, they get backlash on that until, let's say, the white people deem it appropriate for it to be cool, and so now it's the cool thing to do. Can you guys kind of talk about how that affects you guys, especially with the hair, the braids, the what, I don't know, all the different types of braids,
Wigs,
the
wigs, and
wigs
all
or
that.
whatever.
Yeah.
Because like at first it's like, oh, look, like you don't have real hair, yada yada. But now there's white people who are trying to also get braids and try to get weaves and wigs and stuff like that. How does that make you guys feel in that aspect of it?
I used to feel angry about it. Now it's kind of just frustration, because sometimes I feel like at this point people are doing it like out of spite,
Mhm.
like they're doing it because they know they shouldn't do it, because it's someone's like culture. And for people that say, you know, oh, but like, you know, Black people wear straight weaves or like blonde wigs and stuff like that, and I'm like, you
It's-
can't.
Yeah.
That's okay, but there are Black people like
Who do have
that
straight
who
hair.
do have straight hair, who do have naturally blonde hair, and your naturally straight blonde hair is not like culturally, it doesn't have any cultural significance to you, and it wasn't, you know, someone didn't tell you, you know, oh, you can't wear your hair like that. Or, you know, somebody didn't tell you over and over again, you know, your hair is unpresentable, you need to wear it a different kind of way, you know. So it's just a whole culture behind the different ways that we wear our hair, from, you know, it being for survival, or it being just a
For those
tradition.
that don't know, what do you mean by survival?
There, you know, when I hate to take us all the way back,
But
but
I just want to
Days,
inform the people.
enslaved era, enslaved times, in order to make it on the trip through the Underground Railroad, or whichever, you know, way they decided to go north, they would actually braid rice or corn, or beans, or like anything that could fit into braids would go in in the braid. So it's like, you know, like whenever you part your hair to braid it, they would you add. So they just put food and things like that in the braids so that whenever they're traveling, like they don't starve to death. And of course, no, we're not doing that right now, but if it helps us hold on to, you know, that like that part of our ancestry, then like let us have it. You know, like what significance does it have to you? You can't relate to any of that. Like I just don't understand, like, and I get that, you know, of course it looks good. You know, we've been making it look so good. We've been making it look so good. So I could see why, you know, people want to do it, but it's just like, should you? You know? Yeah. And it doesn't always look right, and it's not for your hair texture, and it's you know, a protective braids are for me a protective hairstyle. Like she said, you know, usually like I don't, obviously you didn't say her name, but the lady that you were talking about, you know, like she's wondering what she's gonna do with her hair after she takes the braids out. Like, how is she gonna work out, and like what is she gonna do with her hair? It's a means for us to take care of our hair because it's just a different texture, and I'm just like, you have no need for a protective style, so why do you have it in your head? Why? But yeah, that's how I feel about it, and it's like, if it's just really not for your hair texture. I don't know how much I have to emphasize that because, you know, it's going to
it's more damaging.
Out.
It's more damaging.
Yes.
So to me, it's not as upsetting anymore as it was in the beginning. For me, the only thing that upsets me is when all of a sudden everybody thinks it's much more beautiful on them. Do you know what I mean? It's all of a sudden it's a trend. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh my gosh, look how great she looks with, you know, braids, the box braids, the what are they called? The twists, Senegalese twists. It's like, oh, when I wear it, I look more hood or ratchet. But when she wears it, she looks, you know,
she being Caucasian.
Yeah, they look more cultured and more. It's like they always get the praise.
The credit.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, and then all of a sudden it's like, they're winning. Do you know what I mean? It's like, white girls are winning. I'm like, we've been doing this for centuries, but nobody acknowledges how beautiful and elegant and great it looks on us. But when someone who's not black, so Caucasian people do it, it's like, I just don't get how all of a sudden when they do it, it's like that much better. You know what I mean? It's just...
So the next topic is in the sense of how black women carry so much load but never really get any of the credit. So in the sense of like how the black woman is expected to basically take care of the kids, take care emotionally also as well too. Like they're supposed to take in everyone's emotion, like make sure everyone is good, everyone's taken care of, everyone's looked out for. Because everybody knows that one black mom who just like loved everybody, and you could always go to and they'll have food for you. They'll be ready to go, and it was almost like, yo, like, you're like a superhero. Like, but the thing is, like, they never get treated the same. Like they never get that reciprocated back to them, like whenever they're going through a hard time. Can you guys kind of like talk a little bit about that, whether your parents, your mom was like that, or you yourself seeing yourself almost in that same sense, and how is it that you guys are navigating through that now that you guys are getting older as well too?
I think that really, you know, I hate to bring it up again, but that definitely, you know, that's just been the way that it is for, I can definitely say centuries, because if you think about it, and back in the slave days, when there was a household, there, you know, that had the master and his wife, and you know, they had children, and the person taking care of those children was usually, you know, what they would call a mammy, but she would also, she would have her family, but she would also have to take care of, you know, the master's kids. She would be, you know, the person that, you know, the wife would talk to about, you know, whatever, whether it be, you know, how to raise the kids, or, you know, putting events together, or basically being their assistant, or, you know, their therapist, or just always that person that, you know, they could go to, just the shoulder to cry on for everybody in that environment. And I feel like it's the way that it's kind of taken on today is basically the same thing. Like, our moms would, you know, go to work, take care of whatever, you know, their bosses need them to take care of, and then they come home and they're, you know, the caregiver, they're the cook, they're the, oh, I hate to say it, but basically like the maid, unless you know your mom was definitely having you, you know, work around the house. But it's almost as if it's a generational kind of thing, like, to where it's not really something that's said, you just do it. So my mom is definitely that person, does what she can to please people outside of our home, but then whenever she does come home, she does what she can. She can't speak English. She does everything that she can to make sure that we're good, and, you know, family that doesn't live with us, that they're good. And, you know, even though they're like 30,000 miles away, they're the person that she'll call if, you know, one of our family members here is acting up. It's just she's the middleman all the time. Just, I don't know how sometimes, but she just is. And I feel like I have completely rejected that idea, because I see what it's done to her and like her mental health. And the thing about like our family is that schizophrenia like actually runs through our family, and it's triggered by stress. And my grandmother actually is like really suffering from it right now because of all the stress that, you know, our family and the outside world has put onto her. And, you know, I definitely do believe in generational curses. So, you know, whatever stress from the generations before her, you know, took on, she's most definitely carrying. And, you know, all that transferred onto my mom. And just, it's almost like inevitable. Like, whenever we try to avoid stress, it finds us somehow, some way. And she's really trying. She does things that like make her happy, but, you know, seeing her go through all that has just made me, I don't want to say it's made me cold, but it's just, I don't know how to say this without but I just okay. Don't God like loves us all. God loves us all, but I just don't take any ish from anybody. Like, if I can't handle it, I am not doing it. Like, I'm sorry, like, I'm sure you can find someone else to help you, but personally, I'm not doing it, period. And that's it. And you know, it may come off cold, but I have to make a decision, you know, because of the things that, you know, generationally that we've struggled with. I have to make, you know, the healthy decision for myself. Like, if you can't handle this, don't take it on, because this is at stake, or because, you know, your emotional well-being is at stake, or that's just what it is for me. Like, I'm not doing it. Nope.
I think there's like a parallel between mammies and cultural women from my culture. Like, so mammies, it all stems from like the depiction of strong black women, but then it stems from dehumanizing black women, right? So because you are you're an animal that has no loyalty, so therefore like you wouldn't even be raising your own kids, so like raise my kids, right? Like, you you have no personal attachment to your own kids because you're able to detach. You just raise my kids. Like that stems from that. Like that's a part of the logic that happened when they were like black children were growing up with no parent figures, while white kids were being coddled and taken care of because it was associated that black women could just detach themselves. They were savages.
And it's like they are being raised by two moms, but only one of the moms doing the real mom work.
Yeah.
And
then they grow up, man, to have a child grow up that I raised telling me how to live my life. I'm right.
Calling me that word, that one word.
But like, so there's like a parallel to women in my culture. Like, women in my culture are so silenced. And like, I'm gonna speak like generally, and then I'll go into my family dynamic, right? Because like, how do you silence someone? You take away their access to their body by telling them they have to conceal it, by denying their ability to feel sexual urges. So you're saying that like they have no responsibilities to their bodies. They can't feel. They're not relatable. You take away their emotional support. So you isolate them from other women by training them against each other by saying, "Oh, women talk too much. Women do that," or like be like teaching rivalries. That's your competition. This is your that. This is that. Like that woman is unsaved. This one is this. Like you only stay with this kind of woman. And then you take away their access to education. So therefore, like they know of nothing better, right? Like they're forced to only like process what you feed them, and their identity is aligned with you. You take away their access to economic security, because if I have to depend on you for your money, then I'm going to want to please you in order to access the money, and I want to check in with you in order to access that money. And then you load them up with 12, 14, 18 kids, and then now it's like their duty is to stay at home, because who's going to raise his kids? Who's going to do that? So like now at this point, they have no support system, they have no access to economic security, they have no knowledge beyond the household, and they have no, like, they're numb to their body and they're numb to their emotional like existence. So then they're more easy to control. It's like anyone that you want to control, you want to isolate them from their self-identity so you can control them. And like I see that happen so much within my own community, where like I've seen many of my community use children as some kind of like handcuffs of like, you can't leave me, because then now who's going to take care of you? Now that you're depending on me for money, you're depending on me for this. Now I could hit you, and for you to leave, that's going to like take more out of you for you to leave. And then it's culturally inappropriate for you to leave. You're going to become shunned as the other woman, the unsaved woman. It's like you're not going to want to leave because you're depending on me for everything, and everyone else is going to judge you, and that's accepted. And then you teach your children this, your daughters this, and you're like mimics, right? So like that's something that like, it's really interesting, like just seeing how that's playing out even today, where like I've seen some of the most like alive and most fired up women who become shells of who I knew them as, because they've become like, it's almost like Stockholm syndrome. Like it's literally like kidnapping someone, reprogramming them to become dependent on you, and then they no longer have no identity outside of you. And that happens so much, and it's honestly like, it's terrifying. But like going to like my family dynamic, my family, like it's just my mom, like my primary household is just like my mom and then her kids, right? But so for her, it was almost like she had to be the provider. So she worked. And because she's very community oriented, so like any kid in the neighborhood, my house was never locked.
Emphasize on was
never locked. Because like
it is now.
We got dogs. But when kids like, we just like open and just like, I would literally go to the store, buy myself a nice popsicle, put it in the fridge, and some kid in the neighborhood was eating it. I'd be like, excuse you? Like,
having $3.
Get out of my house. Get out.
But and I love that about her. But sometimes I just, it's almost like she's been stuck in survivor mode for so long that it's the only way that she knows how to operate. Every day to her, she fights it like it's her last day. So for her, every day her mission is to ensure that like, if she's no longer with us, we are provided for in all aspects, from monetary to everything. So like, I like, and it's just, it's really heartbreaking to see her fighting ghosts Because it's almost like, Mom, you can rest, you can sit, you can watch TV. Oh,
Women
goodness.
in our culture don't know
Don't
what rest
know.
means.
Oh, she's discovered YouTube.
Oh,
And
praise.
she's discovered YouTube, and as annoying as it is,
Right?
as annoying it is, it's like, this is like the first year I've seen my mom, like, she got her phone, and she got her speaker, and oh goodness, the phone audio doesn't work for her. And she just
Ain't loud
listening,
enough.
and like I come home and she's like, I saw this outfit, I want it, and like I'm seeing like her become more
Of her
youthful and have her own personality outside of us. Because like I love that she's been able to provide for me, and I love that I've had access to this lifestyle because of her. But it's almost like I want her to have a life outside of me, and I want her to have a life outside of my siblings, and I want her to know who she is and to fall in love with herself over and over again, like it's the first time. I don't think she's ever had that opportunity. But then the thing is, though, going back to culture, people judge her for doing just that.
Yeah.
Like, people scrutinize how she dresses, how she talks, how she moves, how she raises her kids. Like, we, as her kids, it is like the greatest disrespect to her would be for any of us to ever reduce ourselves to appease someone else. So like people attack her for raising us like that, because I have access to my body, I have access to my mental and emotional well-being, I have access to my own money, I have access to a circle around me that I consider safe and that I can be brave in. It's almost like I'm doing everything that is the opposite of the Stockholm syndrome that like I should be trained for, and people attack her for that. So it's almost like there's no win-win for her. Well, her win is isolating herself in YouTube, but like I don't know if that will always sustain her.
So I guess I could lead into the next segue, like because of all that you guys have told me, how much harder is it the fact that you guys don't get any credit for anything that you guys do? You guys are here doing everything you guys can to make sure everyone else is taken care of, and sacrificing you guys' mental health and your physical health, your emotional health, and yet y'all still always get taken advantage of. And again, I think does that play into aspect of being silenced? Like, is it because you guys have been silenced, and so you guys are like, well, okay, well they'll take credit, and I guess we'll just sit here and like, how does that affect the whole aspect of not getting credit for everything that you guys do?
Well, what I feel like when a Black woman speaks out, it's aggressive. Do you know what I mean?
That's the topic itself.
It's like, oh, so now you got 2 cents? You know what I mean? It's like, why are you getting so aggressive or defensive? Yeah,
Why are you yelling
attitude.
at me?
Yeah. I'm just like, but.
And then you barely raise your voice. Whoa.
I know.
Whoa.
I'm
You
just,
use 2 exclamation
Excuse
marks?
me?
Oh.
and I mean,
Excuse me?
for me, I just have a loud voice. I grew up with 7 brothers. Like, we all trying to speak above each other. I know.
I'm sorry.
But
I'm
I'm like,
just joking. I'm sorry.
all of a sudden, I'm trying to talk, like, answer your question, and all of a sudden, I'm aggressive. But that,
But let Becky.
yeah,
Let
well,
Becky
say
drop one
something.
tear and legislation will be written.
Or no, or not even Becky, but let like Cynthia or I don't know, Veronica, or I don't know who. It's you Spanish speaking women. Let a Spanish speaking woman
It's
get
fierce.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's oh my god,
It's
that's so
sexy.
sexy.
It's
Oh, that's what I want,
Sexy.
baby.
I love that.
Mama,
Keep
see
being
that.
angry.
Ooh.
Keep being angry.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's I just
I mean, it's the same thing. It's us women of color have been built on where people are just stripping every part of us away from us to where we are still searching for our own identity, because they've taken parts of us that they want and like and accept, but are the most important things to whom we are. But it's not okay for us to accept that yet. Same thing with our names. It's another way of taking your identity away. Coming here, a lot of Africans can relate. What's the first thing that happens to you when you go to school, or you're African and you come here and your name is just 2 syllables too long, 2 letters too long, too many different letters in your, why is a Z and an E in the same sentence? Like, why? You know what I mean? That gets So my name is Nyamubze Moise, right?
So you're proud girl.
And Nyamubze Moise. So not until 2019 did I start going by Zay. Because when I came to America, my kindergarten teacher just could not pronounce my name. And do you know what she started calling me? Jay.
Okay.
And
that's horrible because it's literally the same story.
And I'm just like,
and why a letter? Like, why not like even a nickname, but a letter?
I'm like, Nyamubze, you can't take Zay out of, but Jay worked.
Jay.
And me respecting my elders like we were raised, I'm not gonna tell you, no, you can't call me that.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
So it,
She saw
and
it
that's
somewhere.
another
on the
way
roster. She saw it somewhere.
ABC.
Joseph was
Sounds
on top.
close
No,
to-
no,
She
Joseph
said
was
it's
on
the
top.
alphabet. It's the alphabet.
But-
I'm picking J.
I'm like, not only we can't embrace what we look like, but neither can we embrace the names that were given to us. You know what I mean? And it's just another way of control. And it takes a long time to kind of, I think I strayed away from your question.
It's okay.
Because
I
taking
think-
away from,
Yeah.
you said,
You can't
So
take
credit.
You
You
can't take
can't
credit.
take
You can't
ownership.
take credit of your own.
Like, who are you if you
Right?
don't
it's
have
like,
your name?
so yeah, and it's, and you go, I went for it 20 years. Give me some of that.
But I think it was W. Du Bois who said to be black in America is to have a double conscience, right? Like you have to consciously be aware of who you are, but who you are.
Yeah.
And in the sense of like, I've mastered in academia, because of academia, I have learned to master, like I might have multiple personality disorder at this point.
Honestly,
I can go from like
It's like every colored woman probably does.
I'm telling you, I've been going from what you're trying to do to like, so what I was thinking is, due to the feedback that you provided, we should move forward with this plan because it is so thought forward. You're so, how do I call you, cultivating the new America. And because of you, like I can like, and then I can also do my like, I just don't even.
You do that very well too.
Like I can go from like
Not a
that
big
to
fan.
that, but then
Not a big
hey, it works. But I think it's, and it's also like my apologies. I am so sorry that you felt.
Oh, that's my
Hers are the
favorite.
No. And I'd be
worst.
like, oh, that upset you? The impact
Sorry
it
you
had
feel
on
that
you
way.
must feel intense. I'm so sorry that you feel that way. Like I will never take accountability for how you feel. That had nothing to do with it. Like if my intentions were not there, I'm not taking responsibility.
And one thing about me is I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly. Like I'll be like if
Don't
someone
catch me lying. I'll make a book.
if someone threw food at me, I'll be like, I am so sorry that you don't know how to process your emotions. But this meal's on us. Like I'm not gonna entertain that because I have like throughout time I've gained a really strong sense of who I am. And like yes, I can use my double subconscious, like W. Du Bois said, to my advantage. Where like I know that you feel threatened by my presence right now, so I'm a like butter up right. I'm a like black illustrator. Hello, you know, soften up the voice. Watch my connotations, make sure like I pause where the comma should be, and everything that I need to do, right? To make sure that you feel safe, because honestly, I don't feel safe around you.
Right.
So if you get what I'm scared what's gonna happen to me. So like, it's
It's
not about
literally
you.
survival.
It's about me.
Literally, like I just want to make it home.
Yeah.
But at the same time, especially like in my work, I guess in my work environment, it's very much like if I don't want to do something because I find it emotionally draining, I can say I don't want to do that. I find that emotionally draining because I do a lot of like where I work does a lot of sad truths, like retention rates of like Black students, what it means to be a POC, person of color on campus, like hate crimes that happened, like a hate crime happened like last year, and like I was like front and center dealing with that. But like if I wanted to take a mental health day and just be like deuces and still get paid, that was possible because I put myself in situations where like I have very clear boundaries on who and who cannot access me at any given point, right? Like if you become a threat to my well-being, you got to go because like I'm not compromising. So if that means that I have to conform to make you feel safe, so therefore I'm safe, or if it means I have to drop a little tear a little bit, you know, pull out the 4 years of theater, then by all means I will do that. If it also means I'm gonna have to throw hands, I'll call my sister. but like
Yeah.
like that's a sad truth.
All right, so thanks for that. This next topic, so I think a lot of people sometimes confuse the aspect of what is black, right? Is black dark? Is black brown? Is black light skin? Is black what? But I think black is black in whatever sense it is, right? And we're all sitting here, and you're a different shade than I am. You're a different shade than I am, and you're also a different shade than I am. And so I would like for you, for all of you guys, to kind of touch on this aspect of it. What is so for your experience, David? So I know people will automatically look at you and be like, "Oh, you're light skinned," but
Or think I'm mixed.
yeah, or you mix, but you're not. And so how? What was
I
that
was
life
just about
like?
to say, yeah, you are. No, just kidding.
What was that life like for you? Because both of your parents are black, but when people look at you from the outside, like, oh, she's light skinned, and so she must be half. So she doesn't understand what we've been through, like from the other black people in the black community. For you, from that aspect, and for you guys, you two, you guys can hear on the sense of like black is black, and so what is it? Why is it so many different aspects of it, and how has that impacted you guys?
I think first of all, what people need to understand is that being black or the just being black in itself, you're a part of a diaspora. It's not just.
It's a big word.
It's a big. It has.
Define,
It's
please.
like really big meaning. So like, it's a diaspora. So there's so many different genetic variations of what black people could be that it's just like you. Honestly, I don't know how, white people were able to like section us off and be like what were the guidelines? Like they really had to think that through because the amount of different black people that there are, I'm like,
I mean, that's
How
what a
did
paperback
you-
test is for, right?
okay,
That's another thing.
that's a whole
nother topic.
Yeah, but because black women possess what's called an Eve gene, and because scientifically speaking, black people were the first people, to be created,
Yeah.
people on the earth.
Eve
So
was like great.
yeah.
Yeah,
You forgot a
great,
couple
great,
grades.
great.
Yeah, it's a couple thousand grades, but yeah. So there's just this huge everybody came from the same place, but like genetic mutations happen, like their evolution happens, the like things change, the earth changes, people change. So you can look like me, or even be white, because there's like black people with albinism. There's just so many different variations. Like how do you box someone
Into one.
into one like word, black?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think some things are just so foreign to people who are not in that.
Because they really did go to Africa and be like, you're black, but you're also black. You're from a different area, but you're black too. You look completely different, but
Or
you're
you'll
black
be
as well.
completely white, and they're like, "Oh, are you traveling?" No, I'm black.
Yeah.
but-
Or they'll be like, oh, I'm Italian. Anyway, it's their favorite thing
So-
to say. I'm Italian. Okay, but it's very frustrating, especially my father is West Indian and my mother is just African American. We don't really know where we came from. And my mother's parents, they're light skinned, but they're both black. And then their parents are, my grandmother's mother was dark skinned, but she was German. I don't know, it's frustrating because I'm like, I literally just told you guys about my childhood, and I hate to say it like this, but I don't know how else to say it, but the way that I grew up, and especially with the school that I grew up in, it's almost like like I said, it didn't matter if I was light skinned or if I had darker skin complexion. They just saw me as black, and they saw the way that I wear my hair, they saw the texture of my hair, that my facial features, I have like a wide nose, and I just have Afrocentric features, so they're just like, you're black, period, so we're gonna treat you like it. But it is upsetting whenever people kind of belittle what I went through, only because it affected my self-esteem so much to the point where, you know, I didn't even want to be here anymore. Like, I just wanted to disappear. And yeah, and I even whenever, you know, there are people in the Black community that would say, you know, but you're not black, like you don't really know what it's like. But I do. It's just, I don't know how to explain it. It's disappointing because I'm like,
Disrespectful.
it is, because I'm like, dang,
Minimize
we
this.
literally went through this.
Yeah.
I could literally sit here and tell you my story, and you tell me yours, and they collide. Like, they are the same story, and they're like,
But you're still
yeah, but you probably didn't get it that bad because you were light skinned. And it's like, okay, and I don't deny that. Like,
I think
don't.
that's what it is too. It's the difference between you taking what is it called, ownership of
Yeah.
that, and not what is it called, acting defensive.
Oh no,
Because there are
I've
a
seen
lot
it.
of people
Yeah.
who are lighter skinned
Oh, I've seen
who
that too.
act all defensive, like
yeah, and they're like, but we're all black, and I'm like, don't be
Don't-
that person, because then you sound like,
really ignorant.
then you sound ignorant, but you also
And-
sound like, you know,
Yeah.
the, like, on the topic of white privilege, you know,
Mhm.
of course white people are gonna be like, but I struggle too, I was homeless, da, da, da. Okay, but the color of your skin didn't affect, you know,
Why
the way
you were
that you came up, or
homeless.
why
Yeah.
you were homeless. But yeah, I completely acknowledge that, you know, I may be more desirable than to like a man, a black man or whoever, than some of my friends, and it really does upset me. But at the same time, you know, I'm not even chocolate, and he's still calling me his chocolate mocha.
Because you got no
You
cream
know,
in it. That's
you know,
what you said.
with a little bit of creamer in it,
Oh,
or like
man.
there's still some type of like fetish or
Mm.
you know, dehumanization, you know, because I am light skinned, and I'm not, you know, again, discrediting anything that darker skinned women, you know, go through, but I still experience it though. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, do you want me to lie and say that I don't? Like, I'm not sure. And I think sometimes there's anger, you know, and I know that there are people with my complexion that have a superiority complex, that have maybe scarred other
It's so funny how
individuals.
you're talking about your hair.
No.
No.
Oh,
I
when
think it's
when
weird.
people do that, I'm like, because no,
No, I just talk
okay,
with my
I'll
hands.
go on
Yeah.
to that after. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
go
I know I
ahead.
talk.
But yeah, I mean, personally, like, I would like to apologize on behalf of anybody that did have like a lighter skin complexion, if they have ever, you know, made you feel like you were lesser than because you had darker skin, or that you were less beautiful, or see, I just don't understand that, because I grew up with like
So many.
dark skinned women, like, raised me, like, brought me up, and I don't understand how you can turn around and bash the same people that raised you, or, you know, brought you up, or did your hair when your mom didn't. If you're biracial, did your hair when your mom didn't know how to, or
The reason I bring up that hair thing is because I went to college. I went to college. It was really, like, it took me back because I wasn't used to being around a school of just dominantly black people. So I went to school in Virginia.
okay,
Like, and it was, technically speaking, it was like an all black school.
yeah,
But there were some white people that went, some people were mixed. But most of the people who lived on campus were basically black. And there was this guy, and he was light skinned, a little darker than you. He was mixed. I think his dad was white and his mom was black. And he had like really, like, he got the curls of his white side because blah blah.
Yeah.
Beautiful hair, and everybody praised him for it. He carried himself like, you know what I mean, more superior than others. So one day I spoke to him because we were friends. He was an athlete. I used to be an athlete. So I usually, because he did track, and I'll run sometimes on the track, so that's how we came in contact. And so I was talking to him, and I asked him, hey, like, obviously he was mixed with something. To me, that's what I thought. So I asked him, and I was like, hey, I was just curious, like, are you mixed? And he's like, yeah, but I'm white. Okay. What are you mixed with? Well, I'm white. Okay, glad that we got that part out of the way, but
What's the other
you
part?
said you're mixed. What are you mixed with, you know? And he's like, well, my mom's black, but I'm white. Okay.
It's almost like he's trying to explain.
Okay.
Or
And I don't know how our friendship lasted. I just don't know. I just don't know how to cut people off sometimes, which I'm currently learning. But he refuses to date black women like his mom wasn't black. Do you know what I mean? And when we talk about different shades of black, which one's right, which one's wrong, we've all heard about the paper bag test. I don't know.
Yeah.
You okay? And not matching up to that, so you're not as accepted. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, for me, when I have conversations like that, especially with men who won't own their blackness, it's like, do you not love your mother? Because I just want you to know you are coming from a woman of color. Do you treat every woman of color like you treat yourself? Because you're not owning that black side of you. So do you disown any type of black? Because he refuses to date black girls, period. Like, when we were talking about who he was interested in, she could not be whiter than white. Like, I'm telling you, I'm not even gonna describe it because we probably all know what I'm thinking. But I'm just like, it really is hurtful, because it's almost like, do you really feel detached from your, what is it called?
Roots.
Yeah, that you will not own that part of you. Obviously, everybody already knows you are mixed with something. That's why they start that conversation and ask you. But you're not gonna own your mother. This woman birthed you. You will always be black. There will always be a. What are you gonna do when you have a daughter? Are you gonna tell your daughter she's not black? Even if you marry a white woman, your daughter will always be black. And let me tell you, just because your hair is kinky and really loose curls and very manageable, and doesn't mean your daughter's gonna come out with roots that are flawless. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what hurts me the most, is because not only, I think this is a different topic, huh?
Go ahead.
Not only are women of color raised to, like, be a strong in the household, and be strong for everybody, but they are also raised to defend men who can't even defend them. Why is it that I am taught to love men of color, like black men, and defend them no matter what? Why are you raising me with these traits to love men of color, but you can't teach those men to love me the way I love them, defend me the way I want to defend them and the way I do defend them, have them degrade me in front of other people just because? Do you know what I mean? And we've come to a world, like, you see people of every race. You see Blasians, black and Asian mix, white and black, Latina and black, all these races that are, because there is a trait that they are wanting within their children that they can never have with a black woman. But can we go back to history and say that black women could have sex with a black man and still create a child that is white and have
especially in West
Do you know what I
Indian,
mean?
especially in like the Caribbean, like two dark-skinned parents could come together, have a child, and it will
Yeah.
look like me.
And,
So
and it's just like, no matter how hard you try to get away from dating either a black woman or somebody of color, you will always have black in you. Because you're black. Your child will always have. I just want you to know the way you are living and the things you're denying right now is how you will be raising your child. So if you're teaching your child that their skin is not okay, imagine how traumatized your child will be growing up and how they will be towards other people. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's that's the moment where, because like dating wasn't an option for me growing up, because I always got hit with, you're pretty for a black girl, but if you were lighter skin, I'd date you. Your hair is so nappy, but if it was straighter and longer, I'd date you. Or, oh my gosh, you're pretty for a black girl. Okay. Just things like that. So for me, I'm like, okay, so I'm not gonna, whatever, great. Got to college, and I'm like, even still in college, really? Like, we haven't outgrown these childish ways and these childish comments. For me, I'm like, if you don't have anything nice to say, or like just don't say things, because you do not realize the amount of trauma it carries on people of color. And if I ever made anybody feel like that like, because people used to tell me, they're like, you're definitely gonna end up with a white guy, or you're definitely, because they're like, for a long time I grew up despising black men, because that's how I was treated. Because I don't want a man who doesn't love me, because I already dislike myself already, because I grew up hearing that you are not worthy of love. So why would I want to be in a situation where I'm feeling like this and that person's gonna make me feel like that too? You know what I mean? But I mean, for goodness sake, white people don't even like me neither. So it's like, where's the common ground? Yeah. I cannot teach my child to love themselves if I can't find that love within myself. So I do not want any connection to people who don't even take ownership in their blackness, because for goodness sakes, you marry a black woman, that baby gonna have black, period. And I'm gonna need you to be able to tell my child that you are beautiful, no matter what shade you are, no matter what your hair looks like, no matter what society tells you. Own it. Even if
So I'm gonna give you an opportunity to answer the same question.
They do
Okay,
a great
so
job.
so the last question was going to be about black men. So she kind of hit on it. So then I'll give you the opportunity to talk about that as well too. I just think it's important because for me personally, I am a black man, and I know I've had my stint of time where I belittle black women, just in the sense of like, oh well, you're beautiful for a black woman, oh your hair this, your all this thing, just belittling them, and so just in this whole like journey of it. And I think some people even have this notion that I don't want to date any black woman because of that. But then I've come to realize, as I've been breaking down certain walls that I've built up and things that I've been through, and trying to get to the root of why is it that I do feel that way? Like, why do I belittle? But then it comes down to me, okay, as just not loving myself as a black man in general. Growing up, my skin color also was like belittled as well. Like, oh, hey, you're black, so you're not as attractive. You're not as this. You're not that, or whatever. And so, in turn, I kind of projected that to the black women. Like, oh, I'm not liked because I'm black, so I feel like I can't like you because you're black. And so, can you guys kind of break down? Because I can only speak from a man perspective. For me, that's why I belittle black women. And is it right? No, I still don't think that's an excuse of why you should tear anybody down. But can you guys talk about the important, like, tell the black men how important it is for that support that you're talking about? Like, how is it that as a black mother, I'm going to raise this young black man to be this powerful, this strong, I
wish a dude would.
And then they go out there and belittle black women when their parent is black. So can you guys kind of like, I'll let you go first.
Not
You do that.
I don't know them.
Not come to me. I just like, I mean, I guess I got like trust issues in general, but I especially got trust issues towards black men. Cause I'm like, like, what are you gonna project onto me? Right. What have you internalized to the point where you're gonna project on me? Like, I used to tell myself, but then it's also, there's like a twofold to this, right? Like, younger, I used to myself, I would never date a black man who at any point in their life degraded a black woman, because I'm like, there's 2% of them, 2% that I am not gonna risk. Like, I might hit you with the pot. Like, I'm not gonna risk it.
All right, Tyler Perry.
Hot pot of grits.
Yes.
Like, you might miss me. Like, but it's also like I've had to unpack that, right? Like, I can't say there's like a particular like black man that has traumatized me or made me feel a certain way. But it's watching them in movies. It's watching them on sports, like watching them in just interacting, watching them with their low, ambiguous or non-racial, like whatever, like white adjacent partner walking by looking like they won a champion or something, right? Like it's that, like I'm telling you, there's nothing more self-righteous than like a white woman or like a white adjacent woman walking with a black man and seeing a black woman and looking and being like, oh yeah, I'm doing what you couldn't do. Like I won the prize. Or I'm like, you can keep him. You
can have him.
No, like I don't want.
You
want
just
his
picked
trauma.
out the ones that I didn't want.
Right, but it's like, it's almost like an ongoing cycle. And I would agree with you, Seth. It is like, if you break it down, it comes to a sense of self-hatred and anti-blackness. Because I absolutely cannot believe that someone that loves themselves would be able to sit there and talk and describe themselves in such hatred. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Like, you have to have a strong sense of despise yourself, despise who you are, and hate yourself, and hate what you stand for in order to project that onto me. And like, I have no room for that projection. Like, honestly, like a black man can come up to me and be like, oh my God, can you teach me how to love you? I'm like, no. No. Like, I just, it makes it with a little like lip, like, no matter how cute, like, sorry, I just can't. Cause it's almost like, why do I gotta teach you
How to love yourself.
Like, right, because by saying, can you teach me how to love me, you mean, can you teach me
how to love myself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't got, are you gonna pay me? Like, psychologists get paid.
I know.
I'm not
Last
gonna
time I
do that.
heard, get paid, honey.
Right, like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, the same way I'm not gonna allow a white man to come over here and degrade me by touching my hair or like making me some exotic creature. I'm not gonna let you degrade me by making me your emotional, like, dumping place.
And like the roles black women play in movies.
Exactly.
A lot of them, they're either like video vixens or like for example, Empire. Do you know what I mean? Like, Cookie is a strong woman. Like, she came from the ground up, but still, people didn't always treat her like that. Do you know what I mean? What's his name? Lucius took a lot of the credit because it's his music, but without her, it wouldn't be anything. But does the woman ever really take the credit? Do you know what I mean? And it's just, go ahead.
Yeah, but like, you can even think about it. We can name shows that have predominantly like black women leading. Scandal. Scandal is like a whole show about badass Olivia. Half my personality comes from her. And
I
like,
believe that.
and she's like, you know, okay, not that one. Not that personality.
But he always kept her under wraps, like
everything
never.
though. But everything from that is she always sacrificed herself, and even she still had to be at that level of being a black woman and running the country and still hate yourself is wow.
Yeah.
Like, if you there and you still like,
Don't
what
love
hope is that for me? But also how men treated her in that, right? Like, she was the president's sex toy. Like, he had a whole wife that, like, throughout the show, he would pull her in, pull her out, and then others, and like they all try to mold her and ship her and like all these other things. Like, Annalise Keating, you can even look at her. Like, she married a white man, and then she always, like, throughout the show, there's a theme of how she felt like degraded, and she even once yelled at him, like, did you finally get your like, was I good enough a fetish for you? Like, you got tired of me, so you cheated me with a white woman, like all these other things, right? So to be in a relationship and to always have that 2% of you that is like, okay, but like, what part of you hates me? That's just too much.
And I feel like I hate that we always have to talk about this, but every time when a white man is interested in us, he could genuinely be interested in us, but we automatically go to, oh, you're just trying out to see what it's like to be with a black woman, right? Because you're just testing out the waters.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
The trauma's
so,
real.
Right? So we think that about white men. That's a different category right there. But when we have to think that about black men, like, oh, you trying to see what it's like to be with a black woman. Am I ever? I literally sometimes I have to ask, am I the first black girl you've ever talked to? Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why do we continuously have to relive all this trauma? And like, it's really sad.
Yeah.
And people wonder why women are haters when it comes to black men or just men in general. You guys literally put it upon yourselves in this. And I'm not saying
I hate the system you built first.
yeah,
of all.
and I'm saying like us women, I'm not saying we're any better. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'll take ownership for this. There are times where I've judged guys on being interested or wanting to talk to me because I'm like, why do you think I'm pretty? You probably think I'm pretty because you see my model pictures, right?
Now you're
But
taking
this-
the blame again all over again.
Yes,
It's not your
but
fault that you had to
but
break
this
up
is
that
the
wall.
thing. People could never have seen my Instagram, and that's the first thing comes to my mind. I'm like, oh, you must have seen my IG, huh? That's why you're talking to me. You know what I mean? That's like how traumatized it's become for some of us, where we literally are like, I've been feeling like not worthy of love or unworthy in general or not beautiful. That when somebody even thinks I'm beautiful or tells me I'm beautiful, I'm telling you, I can't take a compliment to save my life.
Well, because you've been taught that like to love you without making you fight for it.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to prove it. Like
Yeah.
you have to suffer
The
for
yeah.
the love, right?
Yeah.
Because if they love you without suffering, that means they're validating your existence, and that ruins the whole patriarchy, the entire thing. They got to start all over, and
Yeah.
people are lazy, so they just stop right there, and they're just project that onto you, and that's not fair at all. But it's almost like don't get mad at me for thinking you're playing games.
When I've
Yeah,
seen you
it's
play
pretty
games.
Right, like,
Yeah. I'm sorry, I might cut you off.
Yeah, you can
Go on, girlfriend.
For me, it's always it's been a very I feel like I've always just been in a very awkward position when it comes to this because it's either it's either they're really into me because I am of lighter complexion or because I have freckles or because I look like I'm mixed with something, that's most of the time that's what attracts a lot of the black men that I have given a chance. That's usually like whenever we'll sit down and have a conversation, and that's what they want to have a conversation about. It's a complete turn off for me, by the way.
Take notes,
like
man.
it's because I'm like, is that was that all you that's all you were interested in? Like I have a whole page dedicated to art, and you didn't even see that. You just saw she looks exotic. I don't know. There's that part, but then there's also the part where you look a little too black, if that makes sense. Like your features, your nose is a little too big, or the colored eyes, or they'll just have this image of what they want me to look like in their head, and then they'll have the audacity to tell me about it, and I'm just like, I could have went my whole life without hearing that, but thank you.
But they saved you a whole long.
Yeah. But I won't say that they've all of course there's bad apples, but they haven't all been that way, but most of the time it is that way, and it's very frustrating. Because I just want, obviously you want something genuine, and if you think I'm attractive because I look this way, there are other girls that literally look either look like me or have the same qualities physically as me, but they don't look exactly like me, but they're what you're looking for, so you could easily just go from one thing to the next. So at that point, I don't know, I've just kind of had to test the waters out. I feel like I've been better at not immediately being jumping to conclusions and actually giving men a chance, and even though I usually end up regretting it, I really just have to put my trust in God at that point, because I'm like, Lord, you know my heart, you know what I want, you know what I like and what I don't like. So please stop with the foolery and just bring
It's like, I only got so long.
I know. And then I do, whenever, you know, rarely, I don't think there's ever been a white guy that was actually interested in me. And I've never experienced that. Like, I've always had crushes on them, but they would always, you know, be like, oh, I don't
know
like
how.
black
Yeah.
girls. Like, that was literally my first experience.
Wow.
I remember in kindergarten, and it was a little black boy too. It was
What kindergarten you go to?
No, it was a little black boy too, and I had the biggest crush on him. And you know, in my little kindergarten mind, I was like, he is fine, he's fine.
I don't remember going to kindergarten.
No, no, but I was like, oh, let's hold hands like out in the field. See, okay, daddy issues, yes.
Oh, they manifested.
Yeah, that
Early.
did. It definitely did early.
I don't remember back to
But I
kindergarten,
just had a crush on him, and you know, we would always like play tag together. So I was like, oh my god, like, like he's the one. Oh my gosh, I'm a princess. He's the prince. That was the biggest thing with me, is that I always envisioned myself as a princess, and I was like, and I loved watching princess movies. So I would see these princesses, and there was this prince that would come along, and I'd be like, okay, so where's mine? They have one. So I'd be like, okay, so where's mine? So I thought that I found him. That's so funny, in kindergarten. And I passed a note to him, and I was like, do
You can
like
write in
me?
kindergarten? No, I'm just kidding.
It was like, the grammar was absolutely out of control.
It was able to pick up. He was able to read it
You read in between the lines.
I was like, do you like me? And then, you know, fill in the box, you know? But it was a circle. I remember I did like the circle, fill in which circle. And we like had centers that day. It just scarred me for the rest of my life. We had centers that day, and he goes in front of his friends, all of his friends, and it's just like, yeah, I don't like black girls because I think they're ugly. So no. Yes, but he did it in front. But he would like crack jokes, and I was always the pit of the jokes, and it just like stayed with me my entire school career. Like the whole time I was in school, I was just always the pit of some little black boy's jokes, and I was just like, why are they doing this to me? Like I had a crush on him. Like I really cared about him. I really liked him, and like why did he go out of his way to disrespect me? But it's also kindergarten, and they be mean sometimes. But I say that because it's still happening as they're adults.
Yeah.
Not all of them, obviously, but like either they'll go out of their way to disrespect me, or you know, because they have a fetish for lighter skinned women, they think that I'm just gonna just give them what they want. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey. It's been hard. I don't appreciate how much I've had to go through. This character development is like going crazy. God is just really
Testing it.
Yeah. For me to be going through this literally my whole life, it's like, why can't black girls just have a happy upbringing, or not an upbringing, but just I don't want to say a flawless childhood, but not have to go through things where why do we have to? All of us have obviously experienced this trauma from somebody, you know, whether it be like someone we know or we don't know. I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, it's definitely it's made me just kind of sit down.
Have like a sour taste in your mouth about lots of men.
Yeah, and not just black men, but just like men in general, and how they see me because I am a black woman, or how they see me, you know, because I may not look like completely black. it's just taking rejection from all ends. Like, I don't know how to. I'm still dealing with it, obviously. Like, I can't even talk through a whole.
Girl, yeah.
Yeah, but I have no problem, obviously, with black men dating, other races of women. I'm just like, do it in peace. Like, you don't have to bring us into it.
And you don't have to disrespect me.
You don't. You can say like, oh, I love Sally because she's like, I just love her. I love her personality. You don't have to say I love Sally because black women can't do this for me. It's like, where did that go? Huh? Like,
are you still trying to convince yourself that you love Sally?
Yeah.
Just because you love her, or?
Yeah. Or I like Latino women because they're like black women, but they physically do not look like them. And I'm like, like, it's just, how do you explain that?
Yeah. We could write a book, right?
No, literally, I can.
You write a book.
But
I'll give you some
Excuse
quotes.
me?
I mean, you're the more, you're really good at that.
Excuse me. But the thing is though, like, it can be like one of the closest people to me, Josh, is one of the most well-centered, greatest like male person, like black male, that's ever came in my life. Like, okay, our work kind of intersects, and after every meeting that we're in, like, even if because he'll just look at me and then I'll give him like a look like, did they just say that? And he'll be like, Freddie, do you think it's like, he will amplify my voice when I don't have the courage to, or even when sometimes I like, even he gives me an opportunity to say no.
yeah.
Most people don't even give an opportunity, or like after every meeting he'll be like, okay, well, like, how did that impact you? He'll check in on he'll ask me like, where are you holding tension in your body? And he'll like break it down and give me that space to just debrief whatever just happened. Or like, I'll walk into a room and he'll treat me like an equal intellect. Like, we have years apart, but I walk into a room and he's like, oh, what have you been reading? And like, we'll make jokes about these little boys that run around campus like all the time. I'm like, those little whatever. Yeah. But he understands, and he, like, I felt so seen in his presence, like, at all times. From everything from like, I remember like there was another coworker once. He was wearing this pink shirt, and I was like, oh, that looks really good on you, like pink. And he was like, don't say that out loud, like, it's pink. And Josh and I just started cracking up. We're like, man, to be that fragile in your mask, like, wow, that toxicity is, I can smell it from here. But like, but Josh, like, because he actively works to unpack that. Or like Wednesday, he was like, oh, Freddie, and I forgot to greet you when I saw you last time. And like, because we were like in a board meeting, he was like, I forgot to greet you, so let me take the time to say hi to you and check in on you. Like, there's a bazillion people there, but he's like, hey, Freddie, how are you doing?
Yeah. Being seen means a lot, right?
Exactly.
And then checking in. Like, we're so used to being in the background that when somebody acknowledges us, it's like,
it's so
it's like,
refreshing.
It's like,
It makes it so normal.
Yeah.
I'm like, if he can do it, what's wrong with y'all?
Yeah.
Like,
And
know,
everybody just knows how to. They haven't learned that skill at all.
they haven't wanted
had
to
or wanted to.
Yeah. Or maybe they're ready. Or maybe they're scared of what it's gonna reveal about themselves. And another thing that I find really like interesting is, how when you're educated, being an educated black woman has its shades in itself sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like, it also in a black community will make you less black or more, you know what I mean? It's like they're impressed, or they're like, oh, you're not black enough. So like,
bougie.
I'm just like, so not that my blackness is not enough already, but everybody tells us to get educated, and all of a sudden you meet an educated black woman, and all of a sudden you think, I'm not black enough, because like, I just don't get that stereotype where black women are not educated and smart. Let me tell you, My mama never went to school, but she raised 10 kids on her own, still went to school too. She owns a business. She educates other women. So I don't know what people have told them about Black women not being educated, because I don't see it. I don't know where, I'm sorry, but do not belittle me because I am an educated Black woman. Like, don't tell me to get educated and then be like, you're
Be
not Black,
upset.
and be upset that I'm an educated Black. It's like, either a white man meets me and then I'm like, wow, you speak so proper.
I know. Like, what is
Or
that
I'll meet up
about?
and then I'll go from that and then go to a Black man and they're like, oh wow, you speak like a white girl. What? Like, we never find out.
There's no happiness.
There's no.
There is.
And-
That's what I'm so
And I
disappointed
think that's the
about.
disappointment for us. But
Yes.
let me just say this. Thank you to the Black men who do take time to understand. I do appreciate you for this. Because, I mean, you're my brother. We've lived together forever.
Yeah.
And I've been one of those people who's like, yeah, my brother doesn't like Black women. And I do take that. Like, and I'm sorry that I've said that out loud to people. It's just that, because like from some conversations we've had, we did talk about it and you were never interested in Black, but that's not my place to disclose that. You know what I mean? And I didn't know what you were going through. We grew up where we don't really talk about our feelings. We don't know what they're thinking, and people see our family and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys love each other so much. But yeah, we're family. Of course we love each other. We'll do anything for each other. We'll go to the ends of the earth. We'll take a bullet for each other. But there's also that emotional disconnect that we're still working through.
Right.
Like, you and I have talked more this past year than we have in my X amount of years I've been living. Do you know what I mean? So I never knew how you were feeling about all this. I didn't even realize how affected you were about this topic. And so, I mean, I appreciate you for even having me on this after all that. It's just like, that's all we want. We just want people to understand and people to just like ask the questions that they're too scared to ask. There's nothing wrong. You don't evolve unless you ask the questions that other people fear to, because that's how history is made. People who do things out of fear, it's because somebody else is too scared to figure it out. Therefore, history is being made. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we appreciate that.
I appreciate you guys a lot too, and I know we've been going for a minute now, so we'll wrap it up with the. Again, I'm truly grateful that you guys were willing to come again. It's been another chat. I think it's almost 3 hours now, but I truly do appreciate you guys just being able to just be open and just talk about it so openly, just educate people. But the main purpose of this podcast is also to allow the young Black women out there, the young whoever, the white people, to understand like where you guys are coming from. And so the last question that I will ask is, what are your advice to whether it's the white people or the young Black girl that was like you growing up? What advice do you have for them to motivate them to be like, hey, you're good enough, or hey, this is how I felt, or hey, you can make it? What are a few little quotes, little advice you guys can give to the audience out here that is watching, that's a young Black woman or, like I said, old Caucasian person in form of it?
I think I'll speak. I feel like if you're white adjacent, if you're Caucasian, white, however you self-identify, go read a book. Like, you know, there's plenty of sources. But for those that are Black identifying and who experiences Black experience, especially in particular women, I want to say, if you're old enough to learn how to set boundaries for yourself, learn how to set boundaries for your family, for your community, for the world. Like, it's okay to say that's not my fight and I'm gonna sit this out. It's okay to say today ain't it, and I don't like, my strength is not gonna show up in me carrying your weight. My strength's gonna show up in me taking care of myself and my mental health, right? Like, if I want to cry, whatever that looks like take ownership of your emotions, of your body, how you exist and how you move through the world. And if you are a person that has access to a little girl that's still developing, mentally, physically, however that may be, then teach them what it means to be their own person and not rely their identity on the world, or like their identity being aligned with another, taking care of someone else. Break that cycle and teach them how to set those boundaries, because that's really crucial.
I can go. For me, to the young girls of color, black girls and stuff. Just, I feel like women of color and just them in general, because a lot of us do get that hate. But if we're going on the topic of being a black woman, young black girl, if I could tell you anything, even an older young black girl, is that find love and worth within yourself before you find it in somebody else. Don't go searching for love and worth in somebody else, because you'll probably be searching for a really long time. Because until you learn to love yourself, you can never love somebody else. You know what I mean? So find love and worth within yourself. Do not let other people define you. And for white people, I think, yes, like educate yourself, because I feel like even though you find black culture amazing, there's a lot that comes within black history besides just the music and how amazing they dance or like all that. Even though you want to, like, artists, all your roots come from black culture. So educate yourself on that and what they have to go through in order to create that, because a lot of it comes from emotions, and it's emotions that they've gone from slave days. And please just like read a book, watch what you say to people, and you don't realize how much words hurt until it's too late. So that would be my advice.
My advice to people that are not black, I'll say that. My advice to people that are not black is to understand that most of us that are here did not come here voluntarily. It's like, it's not all of us, obviously, but not all of us were immigrants by choice, and that there is just a whole lot of systems that were made in building America were made so that black people would not succeed. I think once you understand that, everything else kind of falls into place. And for black boys and girls, men and women, be unapologetically yourself. Because, I mean, as you could see, everyone else loves our culture, they love our music, they love our style, they love the way we wear our hair, they love it all. And that all came from us just doing us and being ourselves. So you can use that and take it, and if you can hold on to whatever that special thing is about you, obviously it could take you far. But just be unapologetically yourself. And if you're in an environment where you cannot do that, leave. Because I actually recently had to do that, and I'm the most stress-free and happiest I've been in a very long time. So just look out for yourself. Obviously love yourself. Everyone needs to love themselves, but do whatever helps you love yourself and whatever makes you happy. Just do it. Don't let anyone press you about it, and if they do, oh well, they're not doing it. So there was one more thing. Oh, if you are feeling like it's like a lot to handle, or that there's like a weight on your shoulders, just especially in the climate that we're in right now, I feel like seeing a therapist or somebody that could, you know, provide you with the words that you need to describe the way that you're feeling. Definitely look into talking to someone, preferably someone that will, you know, understand what you're going through. For Black women, there's a website called Therapy for Black Girls, and it's where you could find a Black woman who is a therapist in your area to talk to about things like this.
Guys, once again, I truly do appreciate you guys taking the time and coming on and doing this again. For real, like, y'all, I appreciate you guys. Everyone, thank y'all for checking out another episode of Let's Get Real with 7 podcast. And as always, God loves you. I love you. God bless and stay safe. Thank y'all. Love y'all. Peace.